Iraq in the crossfire, why no one is safe from an Israel-Iran war. The Israeli Air Force claimed its new F-35s had struck Iranian targets in Syria. Also, Arab press made dubious claims that F-35s had flown over Iran. Now comes reports that Israeli F-35s have struck Iranian targets in Iraq, according to Arab media. Western diplomatic sources allegedly the London-based newspaper THAT Tel Aviv carried out an airstrike earlier this month against an Iranian rockets depot northeast of Baghdad. The strike hit Iranian ballistic missiles being transported in refrigerated food trucks. A second strike targeted another Iranian base. The Ashraf base in Iraq, a former base used by the Iranian opposition People's Mujahideen of Iran, was targeted by an air raid, according to the newspaper. The base lies 80 kilometers from the border with Iran and 40 kilometers northeast of Baghdad. The sources revealed that the strikes targeted Iranian advisors and a ballistic missile shipment that had recently arrived from Iran to Iraq. Compounding the mystery were initial reports that unidentified drones conducted the strikes. Amos Yadlin, former head of Israeli military intelligence, told U.S. publication Breaking Defense that Israel probably did strike Iranian targets in Iraq. Apparently Israel is really operating in Iraq, he said. It is sensible that Israel will not claim responsibility for such a strike as it may complicate things for the U.S. Without referring to the specific strike, I can say that the F-35 is the ideal aircraft for such a strike. As so often in the Middle East, especially in the shadow war between Israel and Iran, it's hard to know exactly what happened. The tale changes with whoever tells it and why they're telling it. Still, we can make some educated guesses. First and foremost is the fact that Israel has refused to accept being surrounded by Iranian missile bases on its borders. The Israeli Air Force has turned Syria into a shooting gallery, with hundreds of strikes hitting Iranian convoys crossing Syria to supply arms to Hezbollah into Lebanon, as well as Iranian and Hezbollah bases in Syria itself. We can, and we intend to, make it as difficult as possible and inflict a price tag that the Iranians aren't willing to pay, an Israeli military official told me during an interview in Jerusalem last February. Which suggests that Israel would shy away from striking Iranian facilities in Iraq, especially now that the U.S. doesn't have a major military presence there anymore.